Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a video review on the new Makeup by Mario palette. It is his Neutrals eyeshadow palette. I was so excited for this. You knew already that I'd pick this up. I love the original palette. It's one of my most used palettes to date. It's so dirty and beat up, but this is it here. And I'm going to compare this new palette, the neutral palette, next to the original one, as well as other palettes that you guys requested over on my Instagram. I have the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 3, Kylie Cosmetics, Natasha Denona, Skin by Kim, all the really popular neutral palettes that you guys wanted to see comparisons to. I will swatch this palette next to for you, so you can decide if you have one palette, do you need this palette? And I hope those swatches do help you out, but please keep in mind that based on a swatch, it's not how it performs on the eye. You can see tonally whether you want to invest in this palette. In terms of how this performs, the Makeup by Mario eyeshadow palette is unique in the sense that it is buildable, so you're not going to see it as pigmented compared to some other palettes, which is both a positive and a negative depending on how you like to apply your eyeshadows. I love a buildable formula. I reach for the Makeup by Mario all the time, and I love his formula personally. So in terms of this eyeshadow palette, when I was first swatching it, I noticed a lot of the shades look very similar in their depth on my particular skin tone, just a slight variation in the tone. I do like that he kind of took nature as inspiration for this and chose the colors based on that. They're very subdued and soft, which I really like. Not the formula. It is pressed quite nicely, a little bit of kick up, but in terms of how soft the colors look, they do mimic tones you'll see in nature, and I love how he did that. Also, what really drew me to the palette, as you can see by the look I did, is that bluish gray shade. So I'm going to go over all the shades and how they are described on Sephora for you. So we have 12 1.3 gram eyeshadows. 1 is a cream, 2 is a peach nude, 3 is a cool sand, 4 is muted beige, 5 is a light taupe, 6 is a mid-tone tan, 7 is a pale mauve, 8 is an ochre brown, 9 is a bluish gray, 10 is an intense cool brown, 11 is a cool blue gray, and 12 is an intense black. When I swatched the black, it almost pulled a bluish color. It could have been because I swatched it next to that blue-gray, but I did notice a little bit of blue in that black, which I personally really like. I found them all swatched really nicely true to how they're described in terms of their color. This retails for $68 Canadian. It is a modern take on 90s neutrals. Each shade strikes the perfect balance between warm and cool to create timeless looks. The Neutrals is the sister to the original best-selling Master Mattes palette, meticulously crafted to shape, sculpt, and enhance the eyes with superior grip for minimal fallout, which I did notice when doing my makeup. Only a very minimal amount of fallout. I was very comfortable doing my full face prior to doing my eyes, which typically I don't do. So you'll see that in the tutorial section. So now on to the comparisons, which I know you guys are gonna wanna see. A palette I didn't have was the ColourPop Stone Fox palette, I think it was called. I know I got requests for that. I personally didn't have it to swatch for you guys, so apologies for that. But I hope this helps you see the difference between the original Makeup by Mario and the new neutral one, as well as you'll see the mattes I swatched from the Ethereal Eyes. I know a lot of people really wanted to see that comparison from Makeup by Mario as well. Tonally, you can see just how it is for that palette. Very similar. You're just not getting kind of the depth that you're gonna get with the new neutrals palette. I feel you can get a little bit more depth. I feel like the Skin by Kim palette had that cool brown. It would have sold that palette for me with the combinations of both neutral, warm, and cool tones. If she added some cool, I think that would have set it off really nicely. Huge fan of the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 3 palette, so you can see the comparisons there. It just has one row of cool tones, which I reach for more than the warm, surprisingly, in that palette. I would have loved to see a strictly cool tone palette from Patrick Ta. And then we have the Natasha Denona, which I quickly swatched at the end. There was questions about I Need a Nude, and the matte version of the Kylie Cosmetics palette, I swatched that for you guys as well. Clearly, do I need another matte eyeshadow palette with neutral shades? Absolutely not. I have a plethora here, and I feel like if you have any one of these palettes, you would be happy with it. Do I like this palette? Yes. Do I love Makeup by Mario? Absolutely. So, of course, I wanted to pick it up. As I said, his first palette is one of my most reach for eyeshadow palettes. think it's perfect for every day because it is so buildable. I love the formula in that sense. It's easy because I can throw it on quickly without worrying about putting on too much and having to blend it out. I love the medium buildable formula, but it's all about preference on what you like. And of course, with this palette, what stood out to me was the shade that I used as the star of this look, because that's specifically the shade I feel like sets this palette apart. Considering this is a neutral palette, it's actually the cool tone shade that I'm really drawn to. So I would love to see an all cool tone palette, though I personally love neutrals over anything too warm or too cool for everyday wear. But I would love to see what he does next for an all cool tone palette. So that's my initial thoughts on everything, plus comparisons for you guys to see. Hopefully that helps you out. Now we're gonna get onto the tutorial to show you exactly how I created this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love the look. I love how my green eyes pop with this makeup, and I had a lot of fun creating it. So let's jump to the tutorial portion. I have you nice and zoomed in for this tutorial. When I open this palette and look at it, I am drawn to that shade right there. That's why I'm wearing what I'm wearing today. And I don't think I've ever used a color quite like that. That's the direction I want to go for this look. I like this whole row. So I'm going to start off with this shade as my transition color. Just lightly throw that in the crease. I don't have a set look in mind. I'm just going to kind of play around. Starting with this shade in the crease, a little bit of kick up, consistent with his first palette. This is a medium buildable formula, so you're not going to get full-on pigment when you initially apply it down. It is light and you can build it up, which is my preference, than going in with something that's so pigmented and then you have to spend an eternity blending out. I like that this is light and I can build that up. It's gonna start with a couple dips in, slowly build this up to my desired intensity. It's easier to keep adding than just to take away. And I like that I can do more daytime looks with this sort of formula. I'm a big fan of it. I love the first one. If you've seen my first Makeup by Mario palette, it is used and loved. It is quite dirty. I really love this color. So I've dipped in a few times and you can see that the shade is very light. I'm curious to see how this works on deeper skin tones because he does say it's for all skin tones. However, a lot of the shades, at least when I was swatching on my skin, look very, very similar. You can see some are more pink leaning and just a slight variation, but the overall depth, I found several of the colors look very similar. Going to clean up underneath the brow with this shade right here. Just working down that one row. Each of the rows look really cohesive to me, so that's kind of what I'm sticking with for this look. Just can look at each of them and see a look. This one was the one that I personally really was drawn to. Turn down the ISO just so you can see kind of what we're working with so far. Now I'm gonna go in with that grayish blue shade. It's really, really pretty. As I said, I don't think I've ever done a look with this color. So I'm just going to take a rougher 13 brush, dip into that, and we're gonna gradually build up this outer corner. This one actually has quite a bit of pigment because I know those other transition shades were more buildable. It's garbage day, can you hear that? I'm gonna take a clean crease brush and start to work out the edges of that. It is quite pigmented, so I just wanna get it blended. So this is a rougher 15. If I need a little bit of help, I'll take that first transition color that we used and help with the blend, but I think this will be fine. No product on this brush. Placing more, blending out, just going back and forth with each of the brushes until I get my desired blend on that outer corner. I am finding this shade a little bit tricky to blend out. Not getting as soft as edges. Probably just the tone of color. Honestly, I'm not used to these sort of tones. I do usually find purple to be a little bit more tricky than this bluish sort of steel color. What happened to my voice? That being said, I do personally prefer a slightly softer of a formula. Still a really great palette though. Is this Ethereal Eyes eyeshadow formula? Those mattes are so buttery and soft. I love those, but this is still a good formula. I prefer that other matte formula myself. It was really unique. Shadows aren't blending into each other to create a muddy mess, so that's really good. They're each holding their own, which I like. It's kind of essential to a good eyeshadow palette. That color, a little bit patchy, but workable. Still kind of working on getting that blended out, but I'm going to go back and add some more. I think I'm going to do a smoky wing liner like I usually do, but I want to clean up the lid and really see how this is going to come together. I need that lid cleaned up a bit, I think. Taking a Sigma A501 brush and that highlight shade we were using. Start cleaning up the lid space and lightly blending that into that corner. I'm struggling to get both eyes even, but I think that's just a me problem. Now I'm going to take the darkest shade in the palette, which when swatched, I noticed a sort of blue undertone as well, so I thought it would go nicely with this look. I'm just going to run it along the lash line and lightly buff it into that blue shade. Steel. I don't even know what to call this shade. Try my best with this shade and I just can't get it even. I need practice. Clearly I haven't used color like this before. This tone's a little bit tricky. I'm just gonna go off camera now, take some time to clean up the edges, any fallout that I have, put on my mascara lashes, come back, we'll finish off the lower lash line, and I will talk a little bit more about the palette. I am back. Here is the completed look. As you can see, I definitely struggled a little bit with that blue tone gray color. Slightly patchy. One eye is better than the other, but I've been having that issue lately, so I'm not gonna attribute it to this eyeshadow palette quite yet. Just trying to blend out the crease of this eye. Eventually got there, but it just took some time. It might be even the pigment of that sort of tone. I struggle with purples, and it makes sense to go into blues, especially like a bluish gray, to fall into that category. But that being said, I love the look. I love the addition of that color in the palette. I think that's the standout for me personally, that particular color, especially the row I used. I thought it was so stunning. The lighter colors are what I come to expect, super easy to blend for me. I've never done a color like this, and I love how the green in my eyes pops with this sort of color. So definitely different for me, so let me know how you like these sort of tones and this look on me. This is predominantly a neutral palette, however, it does have that pop of the cool tone in it, which excited me. I'd love to see an entirely cool tone palette as well from Makeup by Mario. First impression of this, consistent with the old formula for his first palette, and I love that. I've used it so much. It's one of my most used palettes to date is that particular palette, so I know I'm gonna get so much use out of this. I prefer neutral eyeshadows as opposed to anything too warm or too cool. So I know I'm going to personally enjoy this palette and get use out of it. Do you need it? That's up to you to decide. I tried to include as many possible swatch comparisons for you guys of the palettes that I already currently had to show you if this is something that's worth your money, if you want to invest in this. Maybe you want to wait for the Sephora sale to pick this up at 20% off. Up to you what you do. I knew I couldn't wait for the sale and I wanted to review it for you guys. It's more of a buildable formula, as you could tell, except for that blue-gray shade. That actually went on quite pigmented, so just be mindful when you go in with that, just to slowly go in with those shades. But overall, I know I'm gonna use this. I mean, Makeup by Mario is one of my favorite cosmetic companies and I love him as an artist, so for me it was a no-brainer to pick up, and I had so much fun creating this look. I know a lot of people want a definitive answer whether they should pick this up or not. However, I don't think you need anything. If you have neutral palettes, you could pretty much create similar looks. For me, this shade is unique. Do I need a whole palette just for that shade? Absolutely not. Do I love it though? Am I a makeup lover? Do I love a neutral palette? Absolutely. Do I love Makeup by Mario? Yes. So for me, no question to purchase, and I'm so happy with this look, and I'm definitely going to try this out multiple times, see how it goes, see if I get any better with blending that sort of color, and I'll update you guys further on how it wears and all that good stuff. You'll be definitely seeing this in probably another video. I feel like I want to do another look with it. So let me know what colors you want to see. I figured a lot of people are probably like me and wanted to see that blue-gray, so that's the direction I went for this tutorial. But I hope this video helps you out. See the comparisons, see the tutorial, hear my opinion. Is it worth it for you or not? And I hope it helps you make the decision. So thank you so much for clicking on this video, for spending some time with me today. And if you've not already, I would absolutely love for you to subscribe to my channel by hitting the red subscribe button, the bell to be notified of all my future videos, and I will see you guys in my next one.